Hey guys.
Hey.
He gets his own chair because he's Hollywood. Alright, I can breathe. Hey, how are you? Good. So get in this chair. You guys survived it. You made it. How does it feel?
Good.
Yeah, good. Good. See, we're socially distant. That's good. All right. Well, hey guys, it's been fun. I hope you have a good time. All right. What do you want to know about me and our long journey together? You want me to just start telling stories? I can do that. I can do that. All right. So before anyone else asks, the number one question of my life is if I had nightmares. I did not. I still have not had a dream about Chucky, good or bad. I think he dreams about me a lot, but I don't have any dreams about him. It was fun for me. You know, I was 6 years old when we made the first film. It was the first like big break that I got as an actor, and the last subsequently. But I had done a couple commercials and some print work stuff. I was 6 years old, auditioning in New York City, commuting from New Jersey into New York to audition. And I was lucky to get this one. I got a couple callbacks. I had a final callback in LA against a couple other actors. Like it was down to just us. I've told this story a bunch, but when we did the audition in LA, my mother was actually in the room with me, and even though I was 6, that was rare. Like that just wouldn't happen. You would just go in, she'd wait outside. But she was in the audition room with me, and they wanted me to do the scene where I said Aunt Maggie's a real bitch, got what she deserved. And as a 6-year-old, I didn't want to say that in front of my mother. So when it got to that line, I like froze up, and I said, I don't remember the lines. And can we start over? Okay, we start over, and we get to it, and I freeze up again. And I get up and I run out of the audition room and I lock myself in the bathroom and start crying. And my mother went in, and then she explained to them, he knows all the lines. He just doesn't want us to swear in front of me. And I had fooled them into thinking that I really forgot the words. They were like, well, he fooled us, I guess he can act. And they ended up giving me the job. Yeah, and then it was a great experience. We shot it, all the outdoor scenes in Chicago in 1988, or I guess 87 we filmed it. It was freezing cold, horribly cold. Fast forward 33 years later, when we made Cult of Chucky in Winnipeg a few years ago, it was freezing cold, and I was making a Chucky movie again at 36 years old. Get how strange that is, right? Like, that was really weird for me. You know, acting, when I was a kid, it was something that I was passionate about. My family didn't push me into it. I saw a neighbor on TV doing a commercial, and it gave me the idea to be an actor. So it was something that I wanted. And then by the time I was 13, and I had been auditioning for 8 years of my childhood, memorizing lines, sitting in the car in traffic to go to New York City after school 3 times a week. Not to mention not really booking anything for a while after Child's Play 2. Acting just wasn't really fun anymore for me. Acting itself is the process of being an actor as a profession. When you're 13 and you've been doing it your whole childhood, became not fun anymore. So I just, as quick as I decided to try to be an actor, I decided I didn't want to be. So I stopped, and then when I was 18, I went back on like a handful of auditions, and then at that point I realized, okay, so I have to take off of work and pay for gas and parking and tolls to go into New York City. It was costing me like over $100 every audition, and I had bills to pay. Like people assume that because you're in a movie, you have a bunch of money. That's just not even close to true. Like, I was a child actor in a film in the 80s. I was lucky that when I turned 18, I had a couple bucks saved up years. I did all kinds of small jobs, worked at pizza places, umpired softball, delivered bread, you know. Anyways, and then I went to school for audio, and I own a recording studio in Clearwater now, because I thought it would be a really good business idea to try to get money from the brokest people in the world, musicians. Well, everybody has a home studio these days anyway. But I'm gonna do what I like to do, and I get to travel around and meet you guys, so I'm good. How about you? You tell me now, each of you tell me as much as I just said about you. We're gonna start with you, sir. What do you guys want to know? Ask me a question. Just shout it out.
What's your favorite line that you said in either movie? Or three, either of the three.
How about I give you my favorite from each movie? The first one, "This is the end, friend," was my favorite and how it came out. Although I have a couple good ones from that one, you know. The whole key to impersonating Andy Barkley from Child's Play 1 is just to speak in syllables. You know, "Mommy, Chucky's gone." You know, "Chucky wants to watch the 9 o'clock news." It's all very broken into syllables. The second film, "Get Lost, Microchip," I think is my favorite line. "Curse of Chucky, play with this." I think that was my only line, right? But yeah, "play with this." And "Cult of Chucky," probably "This is the end, fucker." Excuse me. That was my idea, actually. We were in the script, it was "This is the end, friend." And of everything that I did in preparation of that role of Cult of Chucky, to play this character again in my life, which it wasn't too much of a stretch. Andy and I don't have that much different about us. We have a lot of similarities. So, I grew up with Chucky in my life too. He's been in my life. He said we'd be friends to the end. He wasn't kidding. You know, it's very much my life too. But the line "This is the end, friend," which was in the script for a cult, I couldn't feel good about it. Like, it was such a big line for my character in the first film. "This is the end, friend," and like, I remember Tom Holland wanting me to say it in a very specific way, and he was right. I mean, it ended up being a huge line for the character. So to say it again felt weird. Like, I can't say it the same way as a 36-year, you know. And to say it differently felt weird. So right before we shot, like a minute before we shot, I had the idea, and I went to Don, who luckily I'm very good friends with, and I can say what I want to him, you know. And I said, "Can I say this is the end, fucker," instead? And his eyes lit up. He goes, "Yes, absolutely." Like, why didn't I think, you know? So
I think that works better because you were a grown-up.
Yeah,
So.
I've had enough of this crap. Yeah, thanks. What else would you guys like to know? There's not that many of us here this weekend, which, you know, is probably a good thing, right? I think we all could agree. And Days of the Dead is always a huge show. I've done it many times. I've done it for years, and it's always a big party and a big fun show, and that's great, and I look forward to that. But I've also done small, intimate shows. Like this shirt I'm wearing was from a show I did in Ottumwa, Iowa, a place I didn't even know existed before they invited me there. And there were like probably this many people there the whole weekend. And those are fun. Like, it's different. It's like it's a kind of feel like you're in a special club, like of people that got access to something. You know, I'm not the biggest horror fan, but I am a big fan of things. You know, so I know your side of the table very, very well. I've been very nervous to meet people that mean a lot to me. So I think little intimate things like this are good, and you know, because of circumstances that we can't control, we were in a way given an opportunity to have a Days of the Dead that's different than all the other ones. So that, you know, I am thankful you guys came out for it, and I'm kind of glad not that many of you did at the same time. You know, I was anxious about coming, because I imagine many of you were too. And I'm sorry that all the other Chucky people canceled, but I think you can all understand why. So, you know, I didn't want to fly. I live in Florida. The idea of flying in and out of Florida right now wasn't very appealing, so I drove. So, yeah, we're all doing things a little differently this year, and that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. And I'm glad you guys are all wearing masks. I feel uncomfortable not wearing it right now, but we've got enough distance. But yeah, I'm glad you guys are being respectful of everybody. That's important. Yeah.
What was your favorite kill out of any of the Chuckies? Or each?
We can play that game again. Okay. The first one, I guess Aunt Maggie out the window was my, because I got to see the stuntman do that at like midnight on a frozen Chicago evening. So that was really cool. The second one is, without question, Miss Kettlewell getting beat to death with a ruler, which was probably my favorite of the whole thing. I didn't like my teachers much, I guess, but I had a dream I was back in high school the other night. You ever had one of those? It was great, like, because they handed us a math test that I was not ready for at all, and kids, hide your ears, but I did something that I used to do in school when I didn't care, and I just signed my name on it and handed it in and left. Because like once you're done with the test, you get to leave. Like, so I didn't care that I got a 0 sometimes. So I just signed my name on it and handed it, and I did that in my dream the other night, and it was awesome. But anyway, so yeah, Miss Kettlewell, and the second one, I'm only gonna do the ones I'm in. Curse of Chucky. Does the dog count when I shot him in the head with a shot? I guess he didn't die, so. No, Curse, probably, and your eyes are always too close. That's definitely from Curse. And then Cult has to be the glass shattering. That came out awesome, you know. I had a chance to go see that, and I didn't. I was tired, but I wish I did, because they didn't shoot it till late, and I was shooting all day, you know. But they drive you around for things like that, so I would have to change plans to stay and watch it. But I almost did, and I kind of wish I did. But, yeah. You guys see the teaser for the series? For those of you who didn't, a teaser for the Chucky series dropped yesterday. It's exciting. You should be excited. I don't know everything, but the things I know, you guys should be excited. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good.
When is that projected to come?
Nobody knows these days with this crazy world. We're supposed to. I say we. I don't even know that I'm in it, and that is really the truth. I might be, but we're not even there yet. Like, there were rumors that they started filming already. That is not true. Just negotiating how to do a production at this point is complicated. So it's going to be a bit, but they're still projecting it's coming out next year. But yeah, what I do know about it is fun. It's fun. I wish that MGM movie didn't happen and it confused people, because a lot of the comments I was reading from the teaser were a little frustrating, because people are like, is Mark Hamill going to be in it? No, and he wasn't in our franchise. That's what I want to say. I didn't catch heat for the things that I say on Twitter already. So. Did you have a question over there? I feel like you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. The original Chucky movie, did any of, I know you were a child and you got your acting, but did any of those scenes kind of scare you a little bit?
Nothing scared me in the making of that movie. It was too cool. Like, I was a 6-year-old boy and there was $1 million electronic puppet in front of me, controlled by 7 super talented puppeteers, run by Kevin Yeager, who was brilliant, you know. So it was all just way too cool. Nothing about it was scary. There were things that they thought might be scary for me, and there's only one example I can think of, which is after Chucky was burnt, and I'm backing down the hallway, and he's like stalking me, and he's all burnt, bloody, and dripping. Not bloody, but melted and dripping. they thought that image would be too much for me. So my shot of me backing up scared was just a reaction shot to nothing. They didn't put me in front of that version of the doll. I think I would have handled it just fine, but they didn't think I would. So that's the closest to something scaring me, but nothing scared me at that. Yeah.
I was just curious, is there like, I mean, I know there's a difference between like, movie production in the 80s versus now. I'm curious more on how you adapted from then and now, and like,
Well, I mean, the process, first of all, of being a child actor is a lot different than being an adult actor. From just like a human standpoint of living through it, as a kid, you're just having fun. Like, it's work, you know it's work, and you know, you have to do things over and over again, that can be tiring, whatever. But it's just too fun. Like, you're just going through the motions and enjoying yourself. And it was for me, at least. Like, I'm on a movie set, I'm the star of this film. Like, it could be cooler than that, you know? And then as an adult, it's more like, how am I gonna deliver this line and suck in my stomach at the same time? You know, like, it's like, you have insecurities that you don't have as a kid. You know, when you say a line nowadays, especially in this crazy culture, it's like, you know, am I gonna get shredded online because they think I suck as an actor? Like, as a person, as a human being going through that, it's way different as an adult than a child. Now, more to answer your question, I mean, in the 80s, it took 9 puppeteers or whatever, 7 to 9 puppeteers to control Chucky with really big wires and everything coming out of it. Now they're down to 3 at a time controlling Chucky. There's things that they green screen out that there could be little poles on them and stuff, and like that they couldn't do before. So in a practical sense, technology has made the process easier. There's also a very vast difference in budget between the first 2 films and the last 2 films. So where we had 3 months to make Child's Play, we had 28 days to make Cult. So you don't get many takes, you know. You kind of get like, once they feel like everything happened right in the frame, we're moving on. The other thing with working with a doll, especially if you're sharing the screen with him, a puppeteered doll, not a stuffed one, but like a puppeteered doll. As an actor, and I do remember this from being young too, is that if Chucky nails it, if the puppeteers nail it, that's the take they're using. So I can't be like, oh, can I get another take after the Chucky doll just did the right thing that took 45 minutes to get to, you know? So that just makes every take like really matter. Almost like a play or a production. Like you have to do it right every time because you don't know which take is going to be the right one. And with the lesser budget, shorter time, you have less opportunity to do it many times anyway. So yeah.
What would be your favorite look of the doll?
I like the Child's Play 2 doll. I think everybody agrees, like the good guy doll was the coolest look. I mean, I love how, and this takes place in the second one too, but I guess in both of the first 2 films, Chucky's turning human, and the progression of him looking more like a human was super cool. You know, a lot of people complain about, oh, the doll doesn't look like he used to. You know, well, Andy doesn't either. None of us do. It's been 30 years. If this were a mass-produced doll for 30 years, it wouldn't look the same 25 years later. That happens. Also add to the fact that in our story, he's not turning human anymore. Now he's stuck in the doll. The doll's not going to be going through the same metamorphosis. So I'm not as offended by a doll looking different in a movie. I think it's a timepiece, it's a memory piece of where the story was at that time. Just like 10 years from now, when you go back and look at all your convention pictures, and then you see the picture that I'm wearing a mask and you're wearing a mask, and even now it's like, oh, what a jip, we're wearing masks. In the future, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's cool, I remember that time. Remember when we were all scared to death to leave our house? That was crazy. Like, you know, so even though Chucky in Curse doesn't look as good as he does in part 2, it's a stamp of that time. And in the progression of telling a story of Chucky, that is just a freeze frame of the time in which the story exists at that moment. So I'm fine with the doll looking different. You know, but yeah, I guess part 2 was my favorite look. This doll from Cole, this is one of the dolls from the movie from Cole, and he was designed just like part 2 doll, and I think he looks great. I'm happy with him. It took me 33 years and 4 films to get my own good guy doll, but I'm happy with him. And I brought him here from Florida amidst his COVID fears. He came anyway, and he's not even wearing a mask. All right, well, so if you have questions that we didn't answer here, I'll be at my table. You can come there. Does anyone else want to ask one more?
Would you ever consider doing a Revenge of Andy?
I think in many ways Cult was that movie. Any opportunity I get to hurt the doll, I will always take. And I got to do a lot of that in Cult, you know? I got to show that Andy's had the upper edge for a bit. I got to torch his face. I got to reach into his guts and pull a gun out, shoot him. I got to stomp him in the head. I even got to smoke a joint with him. So who's complaining? All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Wear your masks, okay? Even if some people are like, nah, just wear it, because it probably helps, right? It makes sense that it helps a little, right? Maybe not entirely, but it helps. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys. I'll be at my table if you want to come by. All right? Chuck, you want to say anything? If I could have pantomimed Chucky's laugh right there, I totally would have. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.